Welcome back, YouTube viewers. In this video, we're going to actually start working on the top deck. We finished the meter bridge off, and now we're going to start working on the top deck. And there's a lot of mechanical and electrical stuff on the top deck. So just stand by. This may be a lot more than one video. This video will encompass the tape transport controls and a little bit of the roller assemblies in the unit. So, hope you're a bit enjoying this, and here we go. Okay, so this is the transport controls, and it consists of a bunch of mechanical stuff, which is on the other side of these circuit boards, which you'll see. But it has the buttons, which are up here and pressed down. It has the switches, which are this bottom board that you see, and this other board that's right in front of you is the actual lamp board, because on this one, instead of LEDs, there's actually 24-volt lamps that light up every time you press a switch. So the lamp board houses sockets for them, and if you wanted to change and you had a burnt out light, you'd remove these 3 screws and take it off the lamp board to replace them. Now these are the transport switch caps, which are fairly large. These are 32 millimeters square as opposed to the other ones, which were 17 millimeters square. Now here's the switch cap, fully disassembled and cleaned. And you can see all 4 parts. So there's the cap, the underlay that goes in the cap, the fuser, and then the actual switch cap. So they're all ready to go back together and go back into the unit. Now you're looking at the mechanical assembly for the switches. The actual switch cap sits on top of that V in the bracket there, and then it pushes that rod down with the spring down through the bracket into the Hall effect switch, which is mounted below this. So it gives you a little spring action as it presses these things down. You could also notice the amount of rust on the springs and on those rods that are there, causing these things to bind up as you're pressing the switches down. Now here are the 6 brackets and rods. After I've moved the pins, their clips, the C-clips that were holding them in there, and the springs. And you can see they are just rusted pretty badly. So here they are after I've taken the springs, the C-clips, and soaked them in PB Blaster to eliminate the rust. I then taken the rods, chucked them into my mini lathe, and using 600 sandpaper, sanded off all the rust on the actual shafts themselves. Now here's the entire assembly back together. You can see the switches from the bottom side. The clips are back in, the springs are back in. Now the only thing left to go here is the bottom standoffs are where the Hall effects board for the switches mount, and the other standoffs that are placed vertically are where the actual light bulb or lamp PCB is going to mount so to illuminate the switches. This is the next section of the control surface next to the control keys. There's an edit button, the far right button. When you press the edit button, you then would use these 2 wheels here, which is the shuttle wheel and the set Q wheel, to actually move the tape around. You're looking at the side view of it. To the right side of that wheel would be the top, actually. And all this stuff you're seeing is below the surface. But anyway, look at the dirt that I've just gotten out of this thing. And that's just what I could do with the brush. I haven't taken it apart and blown anything out, but that's what I've seen so far with it. And now there's the other side of it. Now the top again is on the left right now. This is all below the surface of the deck. But you could see the amount of debris and stuff that's gotten in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these wheels off, get in there, clean it, lubricate it, so you can actually operate this correctly, and then get it back into the panel itself. So if that seemed confusing, what I've done here is taken a section out of the operator's manual. So just hit pause on your viewer, and you could read what it does and understand the controls much better than how I have just explained it to you. Okay, this is a picture of a A820, but it's a 1/4-inch machine, not like the 2-inch machine I have here. So the reason is I'm going to show you the various parts of it that we've worked on and we're going to work on the top deck. So first off, there's the tape transport controls. Fast forward, rewind, play, stop, record, edit. Next to that, the shuttle wheels that we were just talking about. And now I'm going to show you the tape tension sensors. That's what we were working on. There's a left tape tension sensor and a right tape tension sensor. And I'm going to work on those because the right tape tension sensor actually has a bad bearing in it. So we're going to replace the bearing in that and clean the left tape tension sensor. So this is the tape tension sensor viewed from the top with the guide roller removed. And you can see all the dirt and debris that is collected underneath this. And that's right where the bearing is at, the top bearing. There's actually 2 bearings in this unit, or in this piece like here. This is a closer look at that top piece. Now that flange actually sits on top of the deck, and the bearing, you can see all the dirt, but what's also gotten into it is water. And so the bearing, the balls inside there, have actually rusted. And even though I'm actually able to free them, it just doesn't feel right. It's just too corroded, and it's obviously destroyed the ball bearing surfaces, so that the thing overly doesn't feel smooth anymore. This is a close-up picture of the guide roller. This is a 2-inch guide roller, obviously, because it's 2-inch tape. And this is the shaft that's below the guide roller. Now, if you look closely at the shaft, which I apologize for the bad picture, you can see some shims. The shims set the height of the guide roller so that the tape will go across the heads perfectly level and exactly in the right position. One more thing to notice on this picture is the shiny edge on the bottom and the top of the shaft. This is where the actual ball bearings make contact with the shaft, and when it's placed inside the actual holder for the tensioning arm. So this is a shot of the bottom side of that assembly. You could see it on the left along with the tensioning circuit board. There's the 2 bearings. The one bearing is placed on the top and one bearing is placed on the bottom. There's actually a C-clip inside that that hollow tube there that stops the spring and that little aluminum spacer, which is the very top center of the picture, holding it in place. And then the shaft will fit in there with those washers on there and the C-clip that holds it all together. And this is one more quick bad picture, but it's showing the top of the tension arm assembly after it's been cleaned and everything's ready to sort of put back together. And before putting it back together, let me try with one more bad picture to explain what's going on. So the tape tensioning, this is the tape tensioning assembly. The guide roller goes up here, and there's another arm over here that has a small little roller on it. Now this roller pivots at this point right here. And as it pivots with the spring, you see the spring kind of moving it back, holds it back and forth. It rotates a potentiometer that's underneath here, and that potentiometer basically knows or tells the machine where the reel is at, whether all the tape is on one side or on the other side, and adjusts the tension of the motors to compensate for where that tape load is actually located. It's pretty complicated, and that's a quick explanation, but we'll look a little more into that as we go on. Okay, now I'm going to assemble this after everything's cleaned and done. So the first thing is just maybe a little drop of oil, basically on the bearing surfaces, just a little bit, just so it's not metal against metal sliding on. And this is the top bearing, which looks like I'm going to put it on the bottom, but this is the top bearing that will go just underneath the assembly here. And now I'm going to slide the assembly into the housing, or slide the roller into the housing, and the bearing goes into its seat, spins nicely. And the next thing is a spring. Now the spring presses against a C-clip that's already inside there. And so after the spring, there's a washer that retains the spring down there, and then this aluminum spacer then presses and puts tension on the spring, which is going to eventually push tension on the lower bearing. So I'm pressing the aluminum washer now in place, and then here is the actual bearing. This is the lower bearing now that goes on that shaft, and it sits down inside the assembly like that. And then we're going to put on a little spacer, and finally the retaining washer that holds the bearing and everything back in place on the assembly. And what holds that all together is a little tiny C-clip, which I'm going to put in right now. And I'm going to have to use some pliers to actually clip it into position. See right now, C-clips on there, and we'll just snap it into position. And that's it. The unit's done. See, now you can see that Hall effects potentiometer for a second there. Everything feels smooth. It's beautiful. I wish you could feel what this feels like right here, but this is precision. 2 ball bearings. That unit is smooth as, well, we won't say what it's as smooth as. Thank you for watching that video. Hopefully you got something out of it, and we'll continue on in the next video, more on the top deck assembly. So, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications. Comment if you want. And I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.